Have you ever come across someone that you listen to, or maybe you read a book, or you see the YouTube channel, or see them on social media, and you're like, man, that guy or that girl is talking about the things that are in my head that I've never been able to articulate. And I really vibe with that person. Have you ever had that experience? Well, I have that all the time. And one of those guys for me is today's guest, actually, Mr. Michael McGovern. I got to meet him at one of the roofing industry events last year. We connected on social media. I've been following his Instagram for a while, and he puts out really good, energetic, passionate, motivational content. And I DM'd him one day. I'm like, bro, I love your vibe. I love your positivity. I love your approach. I love the mindsets that you're sharing there. Why don't you come on to the show? And he's like, yep, love to. So this is a selfish one for me because I want to get to know Mike McGovern a little bit more. And I believe that you guys will grab some nuggets from this conversation as well. Michael has built a very successful roofing company in a very short period of time, under 2 years. He's achieved what most roofing company owners never achieve in a lifetime. He's been able to delegate and elevate himself to where he is working on the business as a visionary and as a coach to his team, which is something that I love to do personally as well. So you guys will get a lot of value out of Michael. I encourage you to reach out to him, to follow him on social media. He's someone that I vibe with. I think you guys will too. So enjoy this conversation with my friend, Michael McGovern. All right, Michael, man, what is going on? How are you?
Dude, I'm doing great, man. I appreciate you having me on, brother.
Yeah, dude, you got a spicy background there. That's a good little setup. I need to step up my setup.
Yeah, it's like, one of them things like look good, feel good. You know what I mean? It's like part of the thing is getting it built, and then you got to use it.
Yeah, exactly. I want to dive into who you are and all your background, but just because it's like visually right in front of me, you have a podcast, you have a brand called Reckless CEO. Tell us about that name and what that means to you.
Yeah, I mean, when I first got into business and getting to kind of consulting and some things like that, a mentor of mine, he always shared, he's like, you're best suited to serve the person who you used to be. And he's like, so I always encourage all of my clients that if you're, trying to figure out who your, ideal avatar is, he said, you've got to start there. And so for me, it was really this kind of reckless CEO character per se of, just this reckless and abandoned, right? Going, trying to figure it out, learning, growing. Sometimes you're making money, sometimes you're not. You don't really have a playbook to it, but you're just, you keep pushing on, right? And so that was kind of what created the brand, was that, looking at, and it's not like the reckless in the sense of, careless, right? More of reckless in the sense of willingness to do whatever it takes to get to be successful.
All right, I get it. Yeah, I mean, straight up, when I first saw it, I'm like, yeah, like careless is kind of the word that comes to mind. But then when you start consuming content, we met once at one of the events, I was like, all right, I get it now. And I'm sure that's really good for recruiting, which we'll get into. So tell us about Michael McGovern and Columbus Roofing Company. And I know you have a bunch of things going on as well. So whatever you want to share.
Yeah, man. So I'm originally from Wheeling, West Virginia. So after I grew up playing hockey at a pretty high level, after high school ended, I went up to Boston, Massachusetts for 3 years, played junior hockey up there for a little while, had a few commitments, got hurt, ended up going down to the Southern Pro Hockey League down in Huntsville, Alabama, and played there for a little stint, got hurt again, just struggled to stay healthy. I grew up with growth hormone deficiency, and so I actually got on doctor prescribed HGH when I was like 15 years old. I had the bone structure of an 11-year-old.
Oh, wow.
And so they get me on the juice, right? And, my body starts to grow, my tendons and stuff weren't growing as quickly. So for me, it was, AC joints, ligaments, things like that just kept kind of nagging my career, Hockey ended up ending. I went back home to Wheeling and, had no education, was kind of, broing out for the last 4 years, just enjoying hockey. So I really had nothing, going on. And where I'm from, there's not a whole lot of things going on, right? It's like you're either in a craft or vocational kind of thing, or, you're doing plant work. And so I ended up getting into the coal mine. I was 21 years old. I got into the coal mine. I was there for about 2 years. and miserable though, man. Like just this whole life of this big dream and this life that I, thought I was going to live, what hockey was going to bring me. Unfortunately, it didn't happen. And, I'm just trying to figure it out. I ended up going from there to a gas plant. So I was a gas plant operator for a company called Williams Energy for about 6 years. And man, I just was, again, trying to find something that made me happy again. Right. It was like, man, there was plenty of nights where I'd be getting off midnights and like, man, like I failed. I want to drive this truck over a hill, man. That's like who I was. I'm not that. Like, just felt wasted, And me and a couple buddies came up to Columbus one weekend for a Buckeye game. And it was my first time like ever actually in the city. I'd have been 26 at this point, 27. And, I always say, like, I remember walking out of the bar that night and like in Columbus, you've got this big, like nationwide building. Right. And, I see the sign and I'm like, man, like there's this weird, like intuition of something telling me that like, I need to be here. And it was within literally on the way home that next morning, I'm going through Indeed, like trying to find jobs, trying to find something. And within 3 weeks of that day, I quit my job, cashed out my 401k, loaded my truck up and drove to Columbus. I was sleeping in parking lots in my truck. I was just trying to find, work. I ended up getting a door-to-door sales job. And that was kind of like, that started the sales journey for me and like the self-development stuff. And so, as I was progressing through that, went from door-to-door sales to cemetery sales. So I was selling grave plots, headstones, opening closings of vaults, like, doing all that. I did that for about 2 years. Then I came across real estate, right? And I started learning and studying real estate investing and how this could be an investment vehicle. And, growing up for me, it was like, I thought you only made money if you're like an athlete or you like patented some creation, right? I didn't realize that you could do these business things and just do real estate and be able to, be successful. And so as I kind of studied and started learning that, I started to grow, a real estate investing company. And in the process of that, I had some guys come on that were working for me and kind of selling. But we found some success, but it wasn't, like I just wasn't still fulfilled. Like there was still, I didn't love it. It was cool, but it wasn't something I was like passionate about really, And and a mentor of mine was like, man, like you need to sell roofs, man. And I'm like, dude, like I'm too pretty for roofs. You know what I mean? Like I can't be selling roofs, And he's like, no, man, I'm telling you with like your sales and marketing and how much you love, leadership and all of these things. He's like, dude, it's like, he's like, if I wasn't scared of heights, I'd have a roofing company. And that was kind of like, that started the journey for me. So I just started, YouTubing, roofing, insurance roofing, like just trying to understand the, restoration and sales process of it. And from there, it was like called 2 or 3 buddies that, had a house. I was like, hey man, like, can I try this roofing thing to see if I can get your roof replaced? And out of the 3 buddies, I ended up getting one to get bought by insurance. And it was like, oh shit, this is real. And that started a company. So it was like, I did 1, did 2, did 3. Then it was just the snowball effect of the thing kind of building from there. So it was, and that would have been December of 2021. So we did our first roof in March of 2022.
March 2022?
Yeah.
So we're under 2 years. That's awesome, man.
Yeah. It's been a sprint,
So how did you, where are you at now? Like, you give us a snapshot of where you're at now, like, revenue, whatever you want to talk about.
Yeah. So our first year, we ended up hitting a storm up in like Worcester, Ohio. Crazy scenario. I had a adjuster that I had met along the way, and it was out of like Wayne Insurance, which was in Wayne County, and like a God thing, man. Like, right? No, there was no like a true quantum leap. Him and I connected. This storm hits, and he's like, Mike, we don't have the capacity to be able to, inspect all these jobs, and we need your help. Can you send 3 sales guys to Worcester? Got an Airbnb, sent 3 sales guys there, and they were just running inspections for the insurance company, trying to, help them, because like I met with the VP and everything. I'm like, they're like, dude, we need help. Right. And I had only like the biggest month we'd ever had up to that point. We did like 80 grand. It was like me and 2 other guys. That would have been like May. Okay. And then in June, the storm hits. In June, we did 400K. So it was literally like, yeah, fire. I mean, dude, I don't think I made $1. Like I was just trying to figure it out. You know what I mean? But that really helped us, because once how it is, like once you break that threshold, right? Yeah. And you expand into that kind of, next range, now it was like, well, why would we ever want to do less than 400K?
That's your floor, man. Right? That's your floor. Yeah.
That's it. It just became the new baseline. And so, we kind of went through that first season. Same thing kind of going into the wintertime though. I hadn't had a roofing company in the winter, people kind of start falling off and this and that. And I ended up having only 2 people that had stayed with me from the first year. And, so coming into 2023, it was bringing on all new people, all new recruiting, like really rebuilding the entire team. And then, through this season, we had a great season. We'll wrap up at about 7 million this year. In the process of that, I also acquired a local window company this year as well. So they've been around for 6 years, obviously the PE stuff and all of that. And, a mentor of mine is that's what he does, right? He's all mergers and acquisitions. Okay. And so from the start of building Columbus Roofing Company, like the whole goal was to create a sellable asset. Right. Got it. And so every kind of step we've made along the way has been in that direction, right? Establishing C Corps, employee stock options, board members, like everything has been built to be this entity that we could exit. And then this year we acquired the window company. They've been around for about 7 years. And so they've got a really good name. They're doing about 2.5 all customer pay. So, that's a huge asset to be able to roll that, up into us to have that customer pay base. So we had that acquisition this year, and man, it's been a blessing, man. It's like we've definitely expanded quickly. We've got a good footprint for as young as we are, with as far as the branding and the marketing and all that. And going into next year, man, like our goal is to hit 12 to 15 million is the focus for next season, and everything we're doing is in preparation of that with team building. And I've got like a 12-month leadership development program that I've built out that all of our guys got to go through. And so it's just really trying to, how do I recreate me? How do I create, we have found success in? How do I help establish that, in all of our employees?
Wow. Dude, I'm thinking about the listener or the viewer right now, like just doing the math. Like, all right, this guy did 7 million in the first full calendar year of business, 2023, right? Now you're looking to double that. That's more than most, roofing companies ever get to, 7 million. That's a very short period of time. How did you do that? I mean, obviously there's, we can, you can write a book on that, which you might even be doing, but real quick, I mean, not that everyone, I don't recommend that because I'm sure there's a lot of, recklessness there and a lot of intentional recklessness, and you maybe didn't even make much profit. Who knows? I don't know. But I mean, what are some of the key aspects to being able to do that? Because like, dude, as you know, there's guys that have been in business 10, 20 years that are still trying to break 2 million, right? So how do you do that?
I would say one side of it is that, I didn't come into roofing to be a roofer. I came into roofing because of the business model, right? Like I had done some things. I've had mentors like the guy that I say with the mergers and acquisitions. I mean, he's the CEO of a $100 million a year company. They're evaluated at 450 million. Like that's my right-hand guy. He's literally one of my best friends. He's a mentor of mine. And so, a lot of it has been like this osmosis learning of just being able to study him and watch him and see how he does things. Right. And so me coming into roofing, where I think I see a downfall to some people is that, they've been in the business for so long and it's like, this is how it's done. This is how you got to do it. I'm a roofer. I'll do the best roofs. Right. And not that anything's wrong with that, but I think when you're looking at it from that angle, I looked at it as like, I feel that a lot of people look at it as roofing and I'm looking at it as a business. Right. Yeah. And so it's allowed me to remove myself from any kind of emotional tie that I might have to, the business itself. Right. So everything that I'm doing is just thinking high level all the time, and knowing business. And as much as I've been able to, learn, for me, I'm constantly, delegate, elevate, automate, delegate, elevate. Like that's everything that I'm doing is always like, okay, how can I create this once, make it replicatable, and then put somebody in that place, right? And just create that culture depth. Because that, to me, becomes the most important thing is you've got to create the extension of you, right? You've got to be able to set these core values and the mission and the vision. And like, if I'm good at one thing, it's building that. It's vision and it's inspiration, right? Like that's my genius. And so for me, it's really, I think, being able to do enough self-reflecting as an owner and saying like, why are people here? Because you can go make money anywhere. You could, especially in this
Right.
business, right? It's like guys come in, they want to learn, they want to go do it on their own. Why wouldn't they? They want to be owners. And so for me, it's being able to be like, okay, what's the thing that attracts the people? And then how do I create the business to revolve around my genius so that I'm not doing anything but staying in the lane that I'm really good at? And again, being able to look at it as business versus roofing has allowed me to kind of have that, because I'll be honest, like I had probably sold 2 roofs before I hired my first person. Right.
Ooh.
And yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Love it.
Yeah. I had only sold a couple roofs, but, from building the brand and having, what I had done, because I was in bodybuilding and powerlifting. And so I kind of had an ecosystem of people that were kind of watching me. And so whenever I found like the vehicle that I knew that I could help people in, like it was like, everyone's like, oh, how do I be a part of that? Right. And so, but that's its own challenge as well. Right. Because it's like, I didn't know enough about things as well to really be able to probably be bringing people in that fast. But at the same time, it was like, I know that I'm good at building people. So if I'm bringing these people in, like I look at it as, dude, I never want to be the smartest person in the room. I want to be able to, honestly be the dumbest guy in the room, but find the smartest people and then help them figure out how to get better at them. Right.
Yeah.
And that's just really been my hyper focus is, strategic hires along the way where, you saw when they're like disc assessments and all of that stuff. Right. It's like just being so hyper aware that I'm a very high D, very high I, no steadiness, no compliance. I'm, all over the place. I'm not organized, but I'll get you excited and you'll run through a wall for me. And that becomes, for me, the basis of every person you bring in is like, are they a complement to where we at or are they not? Are they a good salesperson or are they not? Like, because I'm also the kind that wants to build people and help people too. And that can that can be your biggest weakness sometimes as well.
Right. Yeah. I mean, dude, it's all about the mission, right? Like, and that you talk about being the dumbest person in the room. And we had our annual 2-day leadership meeting last week in Chicago. The 4 of us were in a conference room for 2 days, and I'm the owner. I'm 100% owner of our company. But I probably did. I mean, I don't know if you had like a meter to judge, like how much each person was talking over the 2 days. I probably did the least. It's a weird position to be in, but it's like, no, like this is the way that it's supposed to be. I'm not sitting up there in front of the boardroom and dictating like what everyone should be doing. It's our company, right? Everyone's making decisions, and that's how we're able to delegate and elevate.
And I think a lot of that, Joe, is ego. There's a lot of ego in this industry, and that's not shots about by no means, but there is a lot of that where it's like, again, is how we've done it. This is how it's got to be, and I think that it just hurts your business when you allow the ego to be the thing that runs it, right? Like I constantly am trying to be the most selfless, the giving, it's the thank yous, it's the appreciation I show towards my people. I don't want to be the one that, has to be the face of it, right? And that was one of the biggest reasons to start in the media company was because, people were attracted to me from the socials and what I've done. But then what I started seeing happening was guys are like, well, everything's about you, Mike. Everything's about what you're doing and who you are, right? And so for me, being able to create this media company that now builds brands for all of my people too, well, I'm removing myself from that, where it's like, I don't care if you even know it's my company, right? It's like, you tell them it's your company. It's not, Nate with Michael's Columbus Roofing. It's Nate with Columbus Roofing. It's not my thing. You know what I mean? And I think that's just a big piece to it, is being able to, set that ego aside and be more focused on building the people to build the business versus just building the business.
Yeah, dude, totally, man. I've been at this 11 years and we've been just kind of making that shift. So like you're a high D, you move fast. I'm high S, so I'm more steady. So it takes me longer to like things maybe, but that's okay. That's who I am, right? So we're making that shift now. Like for example, we're rebuilding our website, because if you go on our website, contractordynamics.com, it's like the Joe Show. And it was that way for so many years. Not ego. That's just the way I built the business. And now it's not. Like now I'm like, dude, if I could snap my fingers, we got a new website tomorrow. Maybe someone out there can do that. But I want all our people out there. I want our clients out there. I want our events. I don't even care if I'm on it. I think a lot of times, guys in the roofing industry have that ego because maybe they don't have. And one of the things I want to talk about, like maybe they don't have that vision, right, of what they want to build and why. And you talk about that a lot. Like you talk about your 20-year vision, you talk about, building to sell, your exit plan. Do you see that a lot in the industry as well? Like guys and girls don't have that clear vision.
Yeah, man. And I don't even know that it's, just the industry, right? It's like,
Oh, no,
I think
no, yeah.
people in general, right? I think that's one of the biggest disconnects is, if you don't have the destination, right? Like in some of the videos I talk about like making that decision through the destination, right? If you don't have that destination for where you want to get to and where you want to go, one, it's obviously going to slow down their growth, right? But two, what are the people getting excited for, right? If you don't have that end goal in mind, like I knew for me that I could sell vision, right? And so from day one, I knew where we were going or where I wanted it to go, right? And that might change along the way, but everything that I was doing was, allowing, people to instill their dreams inside of my vision, right? Like I got to make this vision big enough for all of us, and you're all going to be a piece of this. And they obviously took the risk too to see, like, can I trust this guy?
Yeah.
Right? Are you true to the things that you say you are? And I think that's where it comes down to then, as that owner is just being so true to those core values and like those things that you hire by, you fire by them, you live by them, right? Because that's the thing that everybody relies on to make sure you're, a unified group, moving forward. And even with vision, man, in the 20-year thing, right? It's like, dude, it's hard to even imagine that. Even if you think as big as you can and you give yourself 20 years, you still can't even think big enough, right? So it's like we're just not exposed to these things. And, and most of us never get to see that. Fortunately, I was, again, side by side with a guy that's a very successful individual. And, I got to experience these things, right? Like I got to see what this looked like, because before I got into, roofing or come to Columbus, dude, I was a good old boy, man. I didn't even know that people were making 250 grand a year, 200 grand a year, right? And so, but that's just all I knew. That was my environment. And so when you can, see that happening and actually be like, oh, damn, this guy ain't that much different than me. You can humanize these people and realize that, dude, it's possible.
Yeah, dude, it totally is. We were actually just talking about that yesterday in our arena mastermind. We have a client in the group. He's 24 years old. He is got a couple $1 million a year business, like super sharp. And like one of the questions he brought to our mastermind was like, hey, I'm really struggling with like how to like set goals and figure out like what I want, right? And when you're that young, like it's hard because like you kind of do, you think you have forever and you kind of do have forever. And I was like, dude, like you're not going to figure it out overnight, but like you're in the right spot, right? Because you're in this group with, business owners that are at 10, 20, 30, $80 million a year on this Zoom call, like right now. Like keep doing this and keep exposing yourself and go to events, because sometimes you don't know what's possible. And this guy's from like a rural area in Texas, right? So very similar to like, sounds like where you grew up in kind of a, just a isolated area. That's part of it for me, man. I see a guy like you on Instagram with your content, and I DM'd you. I'm like, bro, I love your vibe. Like, I want to get to know you better. And I think a lot of people like should get to know you better. So like, let's do this podcast. And that's like being exposed to new things is that's one of the most powerful things we can do. And like you said, that's your job as the visionary of your company.
Yeah. And first of all, I appreciate the compliment, man. I'm just grateful to be here, man. Like I said, any way I can get to connect with guys that are, have successful businesses and doing these things, man, I do truly appreciate that. So I thank you for that. And one of the things that I realized with, younger people, and I'm 31, so I'm not, by any means an old man, but at the end of the day, it's like I've got a lot of guys that are 18, 19, 20, 23, right? And that's the one thing I'm constantly bringing them back to is like, dude, you have so much time. Like, if I could do anything and change anything that I would have done, I would have went back to when I quit hockey and I'd have went to a small D2 school or a small D1 school, and I'd have played for 3 or 4 more years and enjoyed it. And, but no one tells us these things, man. Like, society's like, you got to go, you got to get money. Like all of my friends that graduating started working, like they're making 60 grand a year every year. And here I am living at my dad's house still. Right. And all I could think about was like, I got to get going. So I jumped in the coal mine because it was the only thing I knew that I could start right now to make money. And I try and tell these guys that I was like, dude, just like just enjoy it, man. Like, you're 20 years old. Like, I don't care if you're with me for 5 years or 2 years, but dude, you're 20. You have an opportunity here. I'm pouring into you guys. I've got resources and connections. Like, look at the next 3 years of your life. It's just education, man. Just get reps in and just learn, because I changed my whole life at 27 and was able to do this within 5 years. You know what I mean? And so trying to help them see that is like, just lock in. You're in the right place. You're in the right place, man. Just enjoy it, man. Don't push through that as much as I did. I put so much urgency on my side. And it's easy to say it, right? But it's like, I know where my struggles were at. And I'm like, man, if you can just slow down and just be like, man, I'm just grateful to be here. I'm grateful to learn. Your bills are getting paid. Finding passion within the vehicle and finding your way to figure out how it becomes your thing, right? Like, well, what do you love to do about it? And how do you grow the people? And how do you become a good salesperson or a good integrator or operations, right? It's like just focusing on these things and getting that education, because once you get the education, you never lose it. Like, that's been such a shift for me. As I grew up and parents worked in the plants and things like that. And it's, they didn't have the opportunity to get out of that and build a skill set. Right. And so if something was to ever happen, like, that's all they got. But if you can learn business and learn real estate and learn sales and go through these things, it's like, you're never going to be worse than you are right now, because you've got a skill set that you're never starting from zero again.
Yeah. Dude, you're a lifelong learner. I can tell. That's one of my core values, is continually learning and evolving. And it's so true. There's the opportunity right now for everyone. I mean, whether you're 18 or you're in your 40s or 50, whatever, like, the opportunity, right? There's endless opportunity. Like, if you're listening to this, you're watching this, you have technology, you have an iPhone, like, we've made it, right? Like, I graduated college 20 years ago. And like, my path was like, okay, go to high school. What do you do after high school? You automatically go to college. What do you do after college? You automatically get a job, you get an apartment, you get bills, the whole thing. So it's very much like just kind of what's expected, right? And I did that. And it's just, that's my journey. But like, nowadays, like, my kids are 11 and 8, and my wife and I talk about it all the time. It's like, if they want to go to college for a specific reason, great, awesome. We want to support them in what they want to do. But like, man, if you want to take a gap year and figure it out, or you want to go work for one of my entrepreneurial friends and go, learn some skills, that's awesome too. Like, get paid to learn. Like, why go, $500,000 in a debt or $250,000 in a debt, which is what college is, like a good college is these days, right? Like, why not get paid to learn? Like, man, there's so many opportunities. It's awesome.
And it's that, man, we're in a society of, instant gratification, entitlement, right? And all of those things. And I think that's my, job as a leader, is to help just reframe these young kids' minds and just being like, dude, strap in. Like, you guys, like, don't even compare yourself to me, because I'm 12 years older than you. Like, and I don't want you to go through the shit that I had to go through. I don't want you to have to sleep in a truck and, be in debt and like going through all these things. Like, I want to give you the framework so that you can learn my lessons without getting burnt from them. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So it's clear that Michael has had a lot of success in his personal journey and his business due to his brand, his marketing, his social media content. Now, that's something that comes naturally to Michael, although he's had to spend a lot of time learning how to do it and be a practitioner, be in the game day in and day out. And I know that's something a lot of people aspire to, but it's not something that comes naturally to a lot of people. And there's a lot of different moving parts that you might want to figure out. So if you're watching this and you're listening to this right now and you're like, yeah, I want to build that brand to where I'm this forceful magnet that's attracting awesome people to my company and also attracting those customers that we need to grow our business. If you're kind of vibing with that, you're like, I need some guidance on how to do that. Let me suggest that Contractor Dynamics could be your guide. My team and I here, what we do all day, every day, is we train roofing company owners just like Michael McGovern and his team on how to build and run their own marketing so that they can become that 5-mile famous company, become that go-to roofing company in their market. So you don't have to outsource your marketing. You don't have to spend a whole bunch of money spraying and praying with these different ad agencies and things like that. You take control over your own brand, because guess what, guys? just like with Michael's company, no one cares more about his company than he does. And that's why we are so passionate about helping you build and run your own marketing, because no one cares more about your company than you do. No one's gonna be able to tell your story. No one's gonna be able to communicate that passion and that energy that you need to build that brand that you want, to build a business that you always wanted when you first started out. So if that's something that you're after, if you just want to get some clarity on like what that looks like how to get from where you are to where you want to be and how to close the gap and put all the moving pieces in place in the right order, because the right order is important. If that's you, then reach out to us here at Contractor Dynamics. Head on over to our website, contractordynamics.com. Smash the link below the podcast, below the video. We'd be happy to hop on a call with you and just kind of give you some clarity on how you can put those pieces together. All right. So back to the episode with my friend Michael. How do you find your people? It sounds like you spent a lot of time on that, attracting, recruiting, training the right people. How do you find them?
Honestly, for me, everyone comes through social media. That's all of my, my lead sources, the podcast, it's social media. That's why to me, I said the branding stuff is, so important and so valuable, because the more that you can show people who you are, you actually decrease your turnover rate, right? Because what happens if no one knew anything about Columbus Roofing Company, they see it in an Indeed ad, they come in, like they could be shocked, they could be turned off. But if they see how I show up on Instagram and Facebook and the videos and the podcast, and like they know what they're getting when they come in, right? And so that attracts that person, right? Your vibe is your tribe, right? And so when they see all of these things, like I'm helping to eliminate the ones that wouldn't make it anyways.
Yeah.
And so majority of our stuff is that, man. It's and then internal recruiting, right? Guys come in, they find success, and then they're telling their buddies, and they're bringing them in. And, right now we have, as far as like sales reps, we're at about 19 between like SDRs and AEs, right? So we've got your lead generators, door knockers, cold callers, and then we got, just your closers.
Yeah. Like when people look at Columbus Roofing Co., I mean, don't take offense. Like it's like that's not like a sexy brand to me anyway, right? Like you've got the roof logo on your hat. Like that's not original. Push back on that if you want, but like, and there's a lot of roofing companies in Columbus, right? But like people are attracted to you. And I think a lot of roofing company owners, I'm trying to think of the audience right now, right? And I know so many are like, yeah, I don't want to be on social media. Like I'm not going to be the guy on the roofs doing roof selfies and things like that. That's fine. Like you don't have to, but a big part of building the brand, as you are living, and as you just explained, is the ability to attract those people to be on your mission. And I think a lot of roofing company owners, contracting company owners don't think about that aspect of it. And that's where you're really going to be able to grow your business, right? Like you can get on social media and do a video and run a Facebook ad and sell a couple of roofs. Awesome. Great. Good job. Pay the bills. Great. But like if you can get on there and attract someone that's going to go and sell $1 million this year and get a bunch of those people, now we're really talking, right?
I think that's and that comes down to, like we said earlier, the ego thing, right? It's like, the unwillingness to evolve is actually selfish, because you're in a position to be a leader and to grow people and to do the things that you were placed here for. And if you are unwilling to put yourself out there for criticism, put yourself out there to grow your brand and the people, like to me, like I'm the example of what I preach, right? Like everybody in our company, they know that like there ain't nothing that I'm asking them to do that I haven't done myself. Right. Yep. They're never going to get that from me. So when I'm telling them, hey, man, create content, do these things. It's like, you have to realize that although you're here with Columbus Roofing, like branding yourself is creating you. Like that becomes like, how do you get paid to be you outside of roofing, outside of anything else? How do you monetize you as an individual? And that might just be attracting people and conversations and whatnot. But at the end of the day, it's energy's the money to it too. Right. And so you've got to be willing to, I know everybody wants to do the social thing and all that, but at the end of the day, it's like, that's like not being willing to use AI to create automated systems in your business. Like, okay, you're just going to get swallowed up by the guys that are.
Right. I want to talk about this mentor, Michael. It seems like that, obviously you said your right-hand man, you've learned a ton. It's probably accelerated your process, having that relationship. And I think a lot of people out there are kind of looking for that. Obviously, like coaching has kind of a negative connotation in today's world. There are amazing coaches. I've always had business coaches. We kind of are a coaching company. If you look at it in a certain way, you're kind of a coach as well. You do some coaching and mentoring. I talk about the importance of having that relationship.
To me, it's everything, right? Like it's there's something that happens in a person when somebody can create the vision of what they could become, right? When you have somebody that believes in you and sees something in you that you don't see, and they're a good person, it'll change your life, right? Like he came into my life and I had no money. I ain't gonna lie, I was selling, dude, back in the day, I was bodybuilding, I was selling weed, I was whatever it took to kind of get money, man. I had to get it, right? He's like, hey, here's how much my cost is. And I'm like, okay, I don't care. Like I'm going to do whatever I can to be able to get to work with this guy. Cause he worked it with, high level people. And he's like, man, I don't really do nothing with people that don't have businesses. And like, you don't really have a business, man. And, and I'm like, I know, but like, I promise you, like, I'll just learn from osmosis. Like, you don't even need to set time aside. Like, just allow me to be around you and watch you and see you. And, he started to, create this space for me to step into this individual that he saw that I could become. Because that's the other part of it, right? It's like, yeah, someone can believe in you, but are they helping to create that space and those resources and the opportunities for you to step into? Because I could tell you, man, you got all this skill set, but I'm not helping you take that skill set and implement it or helping you execute that skill set. Well, then that's not a great coach, right? And so for me, it was the first person that like saw a version of me that I didn't see for myself. And then, seeing what happened when I listened to what he did or listen to what he told me and then put the work ethic in and then watch things go. And I'm like, wait a second, like maybe he's on to something here, right? And so for me, it's just when you have somebody that, and it's no different in sports, man. Like our whole life we're coached and we're, taught by teachers and coaches, but then we get to a certain age and ego speaks up and it's like, I know everything. It's like, man, there's a lot to learn.
Did you find that the more that you did the work that he was recommending or that you were just absorbing from him doing, did you find that the more that you did the work, the more he was willing to pour into you?
100%. 100%. And, him and I talk about it all the time. He's like, dude, he's like, of all the people that I've coached and business owners and this and that, he's like, you're the only one that's ever asked me to partner up on things. You're the only one that's ever like stuck around. And, a lot of his people are virtual and things like that. So it's not in person.
Yeah.
But fortunately enough, like he told me one day when I first started with him, man, he's like, hey man, my office is over here off of Sawmill Road. Feel free to come by sometime. And I literally told him, like, dude, listen, man, like mean it if you're saying that because I will be there every day. Like I love to be coached. And, I would sit there and literally just sitting at a table and was just watching him all day, listen to things he's saying, listen to conversations he's having, listen to how he's building his company and building his teams. And it was just doing all I could to consume that. I got a pastor friend of mine that's another mentor coach of mine as well. And, I have these just incredible humans that are just elite level people that, I've been fortunately enough to get myself around. And sometimes I take it for granted, right? I don't ask as much questions as I probably could, but I've been able to watch and learn so many things from them and kind of create my own thing. You know what I mean? And I think when people that are coaching you see you put that effort in, right? Be quiet and just work and put that time in. They're just going to be attracted to you because they see them in you, right? And when they see that, like that's kind of the inspiration for me. And I'm sure it's no different than you. Like someone taught you something, you learned it, you did it, then you taught it, right? And it's like this evolution of the way it is to be a leader. And when you get to see someone learning from something you've taught them, that fires me up more than me doing something, right? To watch these kids make decisions and deals and step up and lead people. And I'm like, dude, this is what I love about it. Getting to watch a young person develop into a greater version of themselves and stepping into something that is truly going to be a purpose for them for the rest of their life. Like that's more of a reward to me than any monetary value.
Dude, I love that. And I see that in our business and in my life. I mean, we have our mastermind, we have our clients, we have, there's other people in the industry that have never given me $1 and might not ever. That's completely fine. I love giving them advice too. But there's certain people in our circle, clients that are paying us that are, they'll text me or they'll DM me or they'll email me and, ask for, some kind of recommendation or what should I do here? And then they go do that thing And I'm like, dude, that juices me up, man. Like, I don't care about the money. Like, dude, that's awesome. And I'm like, all right, I'm almost like secretly like, hey, when's this guy going to text me for the next things? I want to help.
Yeah.
Like, I love it, you know?
Well, and man, I think that's a big piece to it, is that we project our beliefs onto people internally, right? And like, that's one of the things that my mentor and I talk about all the time. He's like, bro, like, you don't ask me enough questions. Like, and I'm always asking questions, right? But it's when you're around someone for long enough and you build a relationship, like your friends, like maybe there's things that I'll be pounding my head against the wall on, not asking him because maybe it's ego of like, man, I should have figured this out by now, so I don't want to ask him. Then I go to him and it's like, a second of like an aha moment of like, oh shit. I mean, think about it like that. But when you're willing to ask those questions, most leaders, most mentors, like, they want to share.
Yeah.
They want to help you. They want to give that advice because they're seeing you actually do it. And a lot of times I think us internally are like, man, like, am I going to be a pain in the ass? Do I want to, do I want to ask this question and make myself look stupid and all of these things, where it's like, ask, because the right person, if he's a good mentor or a good coach, they're going to get there. They want you to ask these things. They want to help you grow.
Absolutely, man. And I'll add something to that. Do it with your team as well. And I went through this period for years, unnecessarily, where I, as the owner of my company, thought that I had to have everything figured out, right? I needed to figure out the marketing and the sales and the finances and the HR and the taxes and the legal. And like, I'm the owner. I need to figure all this stuff out. I'm kind of like telling people what to do. And if they come to me and I don't have the answers, I feel like inferior, right? And so that's kind of, whatever that is, unpack that ego, just ignorance, probably ignorance. And then it wasn't until like the last couple of years where I just got vulnerable with our team. I'm like, you know what? I hate this part of the business, or I don't understand this thing. And that's why I procrastinate on it. And that's why you guys have to keep asking me for this thing, because I hate doing it or I don't know how to do it. And I just kick the can down the road. And guess what? Other people on the team are like, oh, I love doing that. Or let me take that off of your hands. I will do that thing and I will own that. That has transformed our business. That has transformed my life. And that has given other team members purpose, because more purpose, an opportunity to grow and to take on more responsibility and to make more money and to elevate, because I surrender, right? I'm good at this one thing in my business. I want to do that. You guys can take care of everything else. And man, that held us back for years. And I want people to understand that, like, you don't have to know everything about your business. Michael, you don't know how to install a roof probably, right? Like, you sold a few roofs, and like, you know enough to like lead people to do that. But like, man, that was such a transformational moment for me.
Yeah. Well, and that's kind of what I was, saying too. Like, I think that's part of what has helped us grow, was that I had to delegate. Right. Yeah. Like I couldn't do it because I didn't know how to do it. Right. Like, and obviously I was studying and learning things, but I hadn't gone through a lot of stuff. So it was like, I had to learn how to delegate. I don't know if you've seen the show Ted Lasso on Apple TV. But same scenario, right? It's like, dude, you don't need to know anything about the sport or the business. Like, a true great leader is not a manager. A true great leader is someone that builds people. I'm confident that I could be in another industry and I would have the same similar success, because I found out what my secret sauce is with the people, right? And like you shared, is they say like a great culture has three things, right? It's safety, it's vulnerability, and it's purpose, right? And when you can, make people feel safe, make people feel like, the guard's down, they're not going to be cut or let go, and they can trust you. And now everyone communicates like that. And then as a leader, you're the person showing up and putting yourself on blast, right? I'll start a meeting out and I might need them to, share things about the sales manager, but rather than me coming in and saying, hey, tell us what he's doing wrong, I'm saying, all right, man, like, what am I doing, guys? Where am I going wrong here? What am I not giving you guys? What am I doing these things? And, next thing you know, they're listing all these things out. But then I can turn that to the sales manager, because now he sees like, well, Mike is willing to be vulnerable. Mike is willing to be put on blast and be the one that's told all these things. So then when I ask them to do the same thing, now they're comfortable because they're seeing me talk about it, right? And then it's that purpose of like, where are we going? We need to have a mission, right? That's why I started the nonprofit and stuff too. Is it like, that ties into all of this, because it's like, dude, we're not just selling roofs, man. Like, if you came into this building other than us, knowing we're a roofing company, you wouldn't know we even are a roofing company, right? Everything's just about self-development and character and the people. And like, that's the thing that people need.
Dude, I love that. Are there a few companies that you look to as far as like, a few years down the road that you kind of emulate, or, I don't say be like, because you're so unique in your own self, but that you look to?
I mean, I would say I would say like linear, right? Like Tony Tavares is an acquaintance or friend of mine. And so Tony, what they have done is incredible. Outside of that, no, like that's really the only one that I have a jar in the office that every time somebody brings up another roofing company, they have to put $5 in the jar. So I don't even let anyone even talk about other roofing companies, anything else. It's like, nothing of that exists, man. We're building our own world here that I don't care about what other people are doing, because we're going to do it the way we want to do it.
How much money's in that jar?
They're probably about $100.
Oh, all right. That's not much. So people, they're pretty dialed in then. They don't slip up too often.
No. And it's great because everyone's listening, right? And trying to call the guy, hey man, you're like $5, right? It's like, these guys get it. And everybody's doing that together. So it's like, and dude, it just keeps such a positive culture, man. Cause I've been in businesses where it's like, oh, they're doing this and they're doing that. And especially with us being a young company and the growth that we've had so quick, like we've got haters, you know what I mean? A lot of people don't really like who we are and what we're doing because it is a dominant brand, right? Or whatever you want to call it. Like that's going to attract negativity. And if we allow that negativity to bring into the office and us talking about what this person said or this person said, it's like, man, I don't care what anyone says or what anyone's doing. I know what we're doing, and that's all that matters.
There we go. Because you have that vision, you have that mission. It's not ego. Again, back to the beginning, like you're watching this, you're listening to this as an owner, as a leader, as a human being. Like you have to have that vision for what you want and why. Otherwise, you're going to get distracted by other people. You're going to get distracted by shiny objects and trying new things. And it's going to delay your growth, like Michael said. So that's so important, man. We have a few more minutes, Michael. It's about 5 more minutes. I just want to give you space to talk about whatever you want to touch on, if it's your charity or something else that we didn't get to, man. The floor is yours.
Yeah. So my nonprofit's called Foster the Future. That's really for me that's the big counter to Columbus Roofing Company, right? It's what we do is I'm actually creating a non-traditional education system for foster kids. Our whole focus is kind of like what we've done with the younger kids that have come in and worked here, right? We actually raise money at the events. We take that money, Christmas presents, things like that for these foster kids. But then I do an in-house training day. I'll bring about 40 foster teens into my office, and I'll bring in 2 or 3 other business owners, and they'll share their story. They'll talk about it, and then I'll take them through, a lesson. Like the last time they came in, I got them all Rich Dad, Poor Dad. I got them books. I got them shirts, and like just trying to, just expose them to that, right? Because it was so powerful to me. Like mentorship it changed my life. And once you experience that, you want to give it back, right? Like that's the biggest piece to coaching and mentorship that I have. Like I've watched it change my life. I've watched it change other people's lives. And like, I have so much passion for that. And so, the Foster the Future thing is really, that's being able to take everything that I build here to create leadership and culture and vision. And how do I, conform that into this thing that, these kids need, man. Like they don't have anything, right? 40% of the kids in there, caregivers or drug addicts, alcoholics, like, and all they know is that, and they get into that system, and they just don't get out, right? It's like, I think 1 in 4, ends up homeless. 1 in 4 ends up overdosing. 1 in 4 ends up, back in this, and it's like, it's so sad. And, we see these systems and we just we're just like, nothing I can do about it. And it's like, no, there is something you can do about it, because you change one person's life. I have a company with 40 people in it. Like one person changed my life, and that's the ripple effect that it made for me, right? And so it's like, stop thinking you've got to go masses. And it's like, oh, I'm not putting a dent unless I'm putting $1 million into it. It's like, man, one kid, you don't know what that one kid could become the president.
Yeah.
Like, you just got to give that. And I think, with our people here, like they see me willing to do that, right? Like our last event, we raised $17,000, which was like our first annual event for it.
Wow.
And I had like the media company, ran all the cameras, ran all that all the tech stuff. I had all of my, SDR guys. They were all they were at the doors, handing tickets out, doing trays around. Like we staffed an entire event with almost 100 people in it with just our company.
Awesome.
And every single person was fired up and smiling and happy. And like, I'm a pretty religious guy. And, to me, giving is the closest you can get to God. And like, that's why it feels so good to give and help people, because that's what he's done for us. And that to me is why I love it so much. It's like, it's probably selfish too, because I'm like, man, I feel good about myself. I enjoy to do this thing, but it's doing it in a vehicle that can impact and really help people. So, I mean, that to me is the biggest thing, man. And it's up to us, like entrepreneurs and business owners, like, dude, we're the ones that have the opportunity to bring these kids in and help these kids. And, for me, the big vision is that being able to literally create something where I've got relationships and partnerships that, can be a nationwide thing that, other business owners are getting involved in it. We're helping these kids. We're like taking it into our own hands to start to change lives, because corporate would never take them. Companies would never take them. So it's up to us that are, selfless individuals that can see that vision and actually want to help people. And then I'm in the process of, getting a book published as well, which is kind of an introduction to entrepreneurship, all geared towards the kids. And so that's kind of my piece to kind of travel with and, do some of that along the way.
Man, I could not think of a better way to wrap up this conversation than that, man. That is really inspiring. I want to talk to you offline about that. My next venture is going to be Dynamic Academy for teens, for non-traditional education for teens. Not necessarily foster, but my kids are 8 and 11 right now. And as I mentioned, getting into that teenage era where like you got to learn, how to make money, how to save money, how to balance a bank account, how credit cards work, like how to start a business, like how to develop good daily disciplines and good habits and things like that. So that's awesome, man. And I love your mission. That's super cool.
Are you ever up around the Columbus area? Do you ever venture this way at all?
Yeah, we hosted a workshop last year in June out there. We're looking to do it again, probably this June. So
our next Foster the Future event is actually going to be in June as well. But I mean, nonetheless, if you're up here, man, I'd love to have you come on the podcast, get in the studio. I try to keep the podcast in person only, just because I really do love that. And I love to bring people in, and like that to me is kind of part of it. I'd rather, let the anticipation build up and allow you to come here and, us kind of, shoot the shit in my spot too. So I would love to have you on sometime, man.
Yeah, I love the in-person, man. I got to do more of that. Like, yeah, you get burnt out on the Zoom stuff. We make it happen. So, man, I appreciate you. I want to wrap it up. It's been awesome to get to know you. Super inspiring. Selfishly for me, that's why I love this podcast, to be able to learn from awesome leaders like you. And I'm sure our audience has learned a ton. So, man, thank you so much. You're all over the socials, the web. Where's the best place for people to connect with you and to learn more, man?
Yeah, so the best place would be, Instagram at the Reckless CEO. That's probably the best place to find me. If someone reaches out, I try to get back as quickly as I can. How it can be difficult sometimes, but that's the best place to reach me. And obviously ColumbusRoofingCo.com is our company website. So if anyone wants to check that out as well. But other than that, man, and then obviously the Reckless CEO podcast, right? And so if someone's interested in coming on or sharing, just reach out to me and would love to get you in there. And then I do some coaching and stuff as well. I've got a few clients that are, young business owners and stuff like that. So anyway, man, that you just look at Reckless CEO, you'll find me somewhere.
That's the power of the brain, baby. All right.
That's
Thank
good.
you so much. Appreciate it, Michael. Man, I'll see you soon. There it is, guys. Michael McGovern. Hope that you vibed with his energy. Maybe some of you didn't, but if you're obviously watching or listening right now, then you did. My challenge to you is to put some time in your calendar over the next week so that you can give some thought as to what you want and why. Give some thought as to the vision that you have for your company, because I know this, I'm guilty of this too. If I do not create that space to zoom out of the day-to-day of my business as a business owner and kind of look down the path to see where we're going, I risk just working hard and not really knowing where we're going. And Michael is one of these leaders that is very good at creating that vision and then casting that vision to his team and reminding them over and over and over again where they're going. And there's so much power in that. So I challenge you to carve out a couple of hours, ideally 4 hours plus, in your calendar over the next week to think about what you want and why, is to start to create that vision for your company. Beyond that, go connect with Michael, give him a follow on Instagram or check out his content, and feel free to share this episode, take a screenshot, share it in your stories. Let's get the word out, because we need more business owners who are more connected to their why, who are more passionate about what they do, so that we can have that ripple effect on not only our industry and our local area, but on society in general. All right. So hope you guys got a ton of value out of this. We'll see you soon.